Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. It's the Mike Missanelli podcast. It's a Thursday podcast on kind of a cloudy day, a cloudy spring day in the Delaware Valley. Of course, the Mike Missanelli podcast, by the way, it's podcast number 176, and we're doing it on Thursday, April 11th. It's brought to us by BetRivers. And let me just tell you about BetRivers, because I told you about betting on the Masters, and we're going to go over some odds a little later in the podcast, but BetRivers has a really good special going on right now that you need to take advantage of it. During each round of the Masters, BetRivers is offering live betting specials. So all you got to do is visit the BetRivers app. You get all the full details. If you don't have the app, download it in a hurry. It's real easy to download. And when you get that BetRivers app, you'll get details and discover what bonus awaits each day of the tournament. This is fun. It's a fun way to bet the Masters on the BetRivers app. And BetRivers, of course, has been serving me well lately. I don't know. I'm clueless when it comes to betting a winner, though, on the Masters. I have no idea who's going to win the Masters. So a little later, we'll talk about what might be good value for you to bet the Masters. Some guys that you could put in maybe a win, play, show type of bet. All right, let's start today with the ongoing update of your Philadelphia 76ers. It's very fluid. And last night, Miami made it even more fluid. They're falling apart. The Miami Heat and Heat culture and the Pat Riley thing and all that junk that Miami tries to sell you, they lose again. So the Sixers now have vaulted ahead of the Miami Heat for that seventh spot. They still have a chance to move up, and it looks like they could win out, although Orlando is going to be their toughest game as we come down the stretch with only a few games left. But it is possible that they could leap over the Indiana Pacers, who are now in sixth place. But Indiana's got to lose, and Indiana has a one-game lead. So let's just, for the sake of argument, say that the Sixers have the seventh seed. It's looking good for them to get the seventh, which means they're still in the play-in round, and they would have to win a game one. Now, that game would be against the Heat, who are now in eighth, and that game would be right there at the Wells Fargo Center, because that would be a major advantage. Let's face it, the Sixers right now look like they're much better than the Miami Heat. They've kind of come together now with Embiid being back. They've found some roles for role players like Kelly Oubre, who's playing great. I know a lot of people are going to shove that up my nose because I'm not that big of a fan of a guy who gets tossed around the league, and I eventually think he's going to break your heart. But right now, he's playing very well. Melton, I don't know how much to rely on him, but he gives you a depth piece off the bench if you're going to start Maxey and Kyle Lowry in the backcourt, and that seems to be working for the 76ers. So where once I thought that it was hopeless for them to do anything in these playoffs, consider this. The Sixers, if they finish seventh, which I think is most likely, will have a first-round match against the Milwaukee Bucks, who will start that series apparently without Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's got an ankle situation. He avoided a major scare. I thought it was an Achilles. But he's going to be out for 2+ weeks, which means like when the Sixers started the playoffs a couple of years ago with Embiid missing the first few games against the Washington Wizards. And so by the time he joins the series, the Sixers will have to have command of it, which means they will have to win a game in Milwaukee before they come home. The two games that they'll play in Milwaukee probably will not include Giannis. And wouldn't it be nice if they beat the Bucks twice there before Giannis rejoins the series? So all of a sudden, some hope has come through. Now, this is very important that they finish seventh, as we talked about the other day, because if you finish eighth, then you're going to get the Boston Celtics in the first round. And the scenario before the Heat lost last night was that the Heat had the edge on a home game. Before the 7-8 game, the Sixers would have to go to Miami and win, which would be a little tougher for them to win. And had they lost that game, they would have to win another game, which they would win because it's a matchup against inferior 9-10 teams, Atlanta and the Chicago Bulls. But that win would have given them eighth, and they would have had play two games in the play-in before they would get to the playoff series while everybody else is resting. They would still be active. All right, so that's very important, what the Sixers are doing right now. So the hope is that they get the Bucks in the first round without Giannis, get a series lead, and move on to the second round. And once they get to the second round, I mean, who knows what can happen at this point? As long as you don't play the Boston Celtics, and they would not in the second round, they would play the winner of the Knicks and uh, Pacers. So that would be really interesting. The 4-5 winner would go against the Boston Celtics in that first round. So there you go. The Knicks now, a wounded animal team right now. Randall's out for the season. Anunoby's been in and out of the lineup. He's all banged up. The Knicks keep winning. They would be a tough out. But if you're going to tell me the Sixers can't beat either the Pacers or the Knicks in the second round, in the second series, I got to say that's I like the Sixers in a situation like that, which would put them in an Eastern Conference final against the Celtics. And if they're rolling at that point, am I getting ahead of myself here? If they're rolling at that point, could they possibly win 4 games against the Celtics in a playoff series? I think that would be very doubtful, but we have seen Boston be flunky in the playoffs before. So you never know. They're a different team this year. Drew Holiday's really helped him, and he just got a new contract, so he's all happy. And adding Porzingis made the Boston Celtics a better team. So I would say it's highly doubtful the Sixers could get to the NBA Finals, but at least we're talking about hope right now with the 76ers.